All right, welcome to the Explainer. We're going to cut right through all the noise around artificial intelligence. Seriously, let's just forget the buzzwords and the sci-fi stuff for a minute. We're here to talk about AI as a practical, really powerful tool that you can actually use in your business, like today.
So let me ask you something. How fast are you really making decisions? Because in today's market, speed and, accuracy, they're everything. The pressure is on to move faster and faster, but how do you do that without making some huge critical mistake, right?
Well, that's exactly where AI comes in. This is no longer some someday technology. It's the engine for survival and for growth right now. It's what's helping businesses sift through these massive, overwhelming amounts of data to make smarter choices and, frankly, to dramatically boost their productivity. Okay, so let's dive in. Look, to use any tool effectively, you've got to understand it. So first things first, we need to separate the reality of AI from all the hype. You know, the first mistake pretty much everyone makes is confusing the AI we have today with the AI you see in the movies. What we have now is what we call narrow AI. These are systems that are designed for one specific task, like playing chess, and they're brilliant at it, but they can't apply that skill to anything else. The sci-fi version, that's artificial general intelligence. We're talking machines with human-level smarts. And to put it bluntly, as one expert said, when it comes to that kind of general intelligence, we're not even close to a rat.
So how does this stuff actually work? Well, the engine behind almost everything we call AI today is machine learning. And the concept is actually pretty simple, but it's revolutionary. Instead of us programming a computer with a bunch of explicit rules, we just feed it a ton of data and let it find the patterns. This is a huge, fundamental shift in how we build intelligent systems.
And you have absolutely seen machine learning in action. Large language models, or LLMs, that's the tech that powers tools like ChatGPT. They're trained on these just immense data sets of text, which allows them to understand and generate really human-like language for all sorts of things.
Now, to really get a handle on what AI can do for your business, it really helps to think of its capabilities as, well, as a ladder. Let's call it an intelligence continuum that shows how these systems are evolving and getting more powerful.
So we're going to climb that ladder together, focusing on 4 key levels that are most relevant to you and your business right now. This is going to give us a really clear roadmap from the simplest automations all the way up to the creative power of modern AI. So at the very bottom, the most basic level, we have systems that act. These are just simple, rule-based machines. They follow a predefined script, like a really basic if-then statement. If the sensor detects smoke, then the alarm sounds. If you set the speed to 65, then the car maintains it. This is automation, sure, but it's not learning. The next rung up the ladder is level 2, systems that predict. And there's this famous story from Target that just illustrates this perfectly. By analyzing shopping data, they figured out that purchases of just 25 specific products, things like unscented lotion and calcium supplements, could be used to predict not just if a shopper was pregnant, but they could even guess what stage of her pregnancy she was in. Now that is the power of using data to make these kinds of forecasts. And this brings us to level 3, systems that learn. Okay, so these systems don't just predict, they actually get better on their own. They use what's called a feedback loop. So an action leads to an outcome. That outcome generates new data, and then that new data is fed right back into the system to make the next prediction better. It's this cycle of constant improvement, and no human programmer is needed to do it.
And that brings us to the top of our ladder, the current cutting edge. Level 4, systems that create. This is the world of generative AI. I mean, we are talking about systems that can produce totally original images, music, even incredibly complex industrial designs. Take Autodesk's Dreamcatcher, for example. It can generate thousands of these bizarre yet highly effective design ideas that go way beyond what any human designer could ever dream up on their own.
Okay, but this incredible potential, it comes with some pretty significant responsibility. Understanding what AI can do is really only half the battle. As a leader, you absolutely have to understand the risks. When you're bringing AI into your business, there are 3 critical risks you have to manage: bias, data protection, and just plain old accuracy. So let's break those down. The risk of bias it's a huge and really well-documented challenge. For instance, research from Professor LaTanya Sweeney found that certain online searches could trigger ad results that implied a person had a criminal record. Now, this happens because AI models learn from historical data. So if that data already contains existing societal biases or imbalances, the AI can learn and then just reproduce them. It's a technical problem, but it's rooted in our data. And this whole issue feeds into a core challenge in AI that we call the black box problem. With a lot of these complex models, we can see the data that goes in and we can see the answer that comes out. But the process in between is, well, it's hidden. We don't actually know how it reached its conclusion. Thankfully, the industry is really focused on a solution here. It's called Explainable AI, or XAI. And the entire goal of XAI is to crack open that black box, to build processes that let us humans understand and, most importantly, trust the results we're getting. So, after talking about all the potential and all the pitfalls, what does this actually mean for your team? Honestly, the best way to frame the future is not as a competition between humans and machines, but as a really powerful new partnership. Here is the key takeaway, for real. AI primarily automates individual tasks, not entire jobs. By handing off all that repetitive, mundane work to the machines, we free up our human employees to focus on what we do best: high-level strategy, creative problem solving, and, nuanced judgment. The goal is to augment human capability, not to replace it.
So what does this partnership actually deliver? What does it look like? Well, let's look at Harley-Davidson. They used an AI system to get way better at targeting potential customers. The result, and this is just in New York City, was this: a 2,930% increase in sales leads. That is the power of this partnership.
And that's just one example. The technology is here, it's accessible, and it is ready to completely transform how business gets done. So the only remaining question is, are you ready to lead that transformation? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.